I think it's focusing on the wrong thing to fix the problem. I think they're still stuck because they don't have... Is it recording?
Before we continue forward in this wonderful conversation, this is just kind of a little campfire from some devs and players and experienced folks. We're just kind of going to record the spitballing and us BSing. So right now we're talking about the systems. The fantasy world is trying to eliminate the to hit option. That's what we're talking about. So
yeah, wild to me.
Yeah, to me, it just overemphasizes meatbag systems.
Yep.
You're a big block of HP, and now it's not even a question of whether you hit or not. It's rolling for damage, and to me, it's like it's still going to feel like a wasted turn when you roll like complete shit.
Yep.
And deal 2 damage to something because your whole scaling now is based on a larger amount of HP that you have to dig through.
Yep.
Because you don't have to worry about not hitting, so the only way to compensate is lots more HP and lots more like buffing or protection.
That's the thing. I would think from a balancing standpoint, that's got to be really tough.
That's probably why they're going to take 18 extra.
And I think
with full-time development.
That is, and to me, that's just kind of wild. I don't know how you incentivize. I'm sure the system's got it, but how do you incentivize smarter play when getting hit and hurt is inevitable?
Yeah.
And how does that sort of change your whole sort of role-playing perspective on it too? Like, to me, that seems really strange.
See, in my min-maxing brain, I'm thinking to myself, all right, we've eliminated the to-hit dice option, so what can I build on a character? And in our case, it'd be cybernetics, mutations, whatever that is, to leverage I don't give a shit, I'm gonna hit. So how can I make that nutty fast?
Yep. Well, and that's the thing. I don't... For me, that eliminates one of the big thing, the big thing, when it comes to any sort of like monster balance or anything. How much HP do they have, and then how defensive are they? And if you eliminate how defensive really are they, you're essentially just throwing zeros on somebody until it's roughly hard enough to hit.
And that goes to the MMORPG mentality from a game development standpoint. You've got 2 options as a main tank in a group, or taking damage, and it's either mitigation or avoidance.
Yep.
And in my opinion, I always want to go with mitigation because then it's not the what if. Your support, yourself are not like, I'm doing.
Well, then you're gonna love MCN,
right?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Well, but the mitigation is more important than the avoidance, and at that point you're dealing with static numbers and not chance.
Yeah.
And then by having no hit issues, well, you eliminate that chance. You eliminate that possibility of not doing it, of it happening right. You know.
And is it because like I get very much the. It doesn't feel good to waste your turn.
Yep.
Right.
Which is the big
I totally
conversation.
Like, you guys, we played League of Legends long enough ago that we remember dodge runes, right? They were impossible to plan for. They were good because it was like, oh, okay, well, I just take no damage. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that mechanic felt crappy if you were playing against it, but it was optimal. And so I understand the attractiveness, I guess, of not wanting someone to feel like their turn's wasted, but I think that there's
so much more you can do in your turn than just
But
attack.
for me, that almost feels like it would be worse to have like a limp turn than it would to just like miss.
Right.
Well,
and I think all of this goes back, in my mind, to bigger systems, like bigger TTRPG systems not being challenged. What is this all about? From what I can tell, like in general, and like this being such a big conversation, it's all about combat. So combat still is the premier thing that you're going. And don't get me wrong, combat is super fun.
Combat's fun. I love combat.
Mm-hmm. But again, in a TTRPG, if really all of your emphasis is on combat, I don't see why you're not just jumping onto Cyberpunk 2077 or whatever, outside of just hanging out with friends.
Yep.
Because you're going to get great combat and all kinds of fun different styles of combat there. TTRPG has to offer I mean, and to their credit, too, I mean, a lot of these systems are developing out, like, social systems and this sort of stuff.
Yep.
But you need to bring in, like, all of these sort of components, other ways to play the game, that people want to play the game and giving structures to it.
What's it? If combat's your only thing, play a board game.
Right.
You know, like that is... And there's nothing wrong with that, goodness.
Yeah.
Where's the dog?
Well, I don't know.
Wouldn't be in here. She thinks I am the devil.
She's not afraid of you. I heard the sausage bark a minute ago, so...
But it...
What?
I heard the sausage bark a little while ago. Maybe she's up with Mom? I don't know. The joy of video editing. I just cut all the stuff out.
Oh yeah.
Well, and it's not even like we're not limiting combat in any way, shape, or form in our game.
In fact,
We're
I think
just
our combat
giving
system
more
is
options,
even
right?
wider.
Yep.
And heck, we even have a house that's dedicated to just doing that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. That you might actually stumble into.
We
you know,
channeled,
that
we channeled Neon Hades.
Yeah. And I think that it is. Even in combat, there's so many different ways to do combat in your game, though.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
Using a net diver to hack weapons or systems or activate drones that they were depending on, and like that's a unique way of doing combat that doesn't exist. One, I mean, we're fortunate to be in a sort of cyberpunk setting where some of these things
fantasy
aren't going to show up in fantasy.
Yeah, you can't have that rock be disabled.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I have ejected your arrows from your quiver.
Yeah. But it is still a very novel way to play, and you can be just as effective taking drugs and running with razor fists and something.
Chasing your own teammates.
In fact, surprisingly, maybe a little too.
Turns out that there is a balance that we need to strike. Yeah. Your teammate should be afraid of you, but not have to avoid you actively.
For 10 minutes.
Yeah, for 10 minutes.
In-game minutes.
It's 10 hours of running away.
This raging bull.
It's Benny Hill music.
Oh my gosh, it totally was.
Yeah, So I think, there is a lot of that.
Yeah, and to me too, I think, right, like you were saying, so there's a lot of balancing, right?
Yep.
But also probably means, and I haven't looked at the rules or anything like that, in any deep diving, but to me it all speaks to a more controlled system. Mm-hmm. Like, from the get-go, right? Yep. You have probably extremely structured classes. Mm-hmm. Well, I do know that. They have extremely structured classes.
Okay.
Classes are self-contained.
Yep.
All their abilities, everything. And then what I imagine is there's probably, like, everything is very, very, very tight.
Yep. Yeah.
Rule system, everything, it's all... And that's all well and good, but I actually think that is counter player agency, counter even power fantasy to an extent.
Yep.
Because, like, you can only be powerful in this way. Or in your subclass way, or in this way. Like, you have no agency in it, other than choosing which direction.
And I think
to me that feels like a video game.
For me too, I think that there is something to be said for having, like, a base class be able to kind of do what the player wants it to do without a whole lot of hoops to jump through. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember in, like, Pathfinder and old 3.5 D&D, but, like, prestige classes and stuff, right? And so there were certain conditions you needed to meet in order to do this.
Yeah.
And were the prestige classes anything remarkable?
Yeah, I remember
but like,
being
if
oh,
that
wow.
was the power fan, if that's a character you wanted, you had to jump through these hoops just to get the character that you want.
Right.
And I think that it is a smart system to have in place where you can play each class with each weapon type, with each cybernetic, with each mutagen, with whatever you're doing.
You want to use magic, in the fantasy world, if you want to use magic, go ahead and use magic.
Yes.
Rather than saying, like, no, the hunter doesn't use magic, or, well, I guess it'd be, the fighter can't use magic, and the mage can, and the druid sort of. It's say, no, everybody can use magic.
Yep.
Just these classes specialize in that.
And that's what's supposed to... The fantasy of like running at a guy who, you've got a sword and they're about to blow you up with a fireball is always a tough one for me because I'm like, why'd you ever want to be the guy with the sword?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I just generated flames from my brain.
Yeah. And so, I think that it is a smart system to say, okay, well, the guy with the giant sword on his back also has the ability to, spit acid or whatever, right? Like there's stuff you can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, you're not going to be able to do everything that say the Scion can do, but you can mimic it with technology, with weaponry, with whatever, and get close to that. It feels like it's more level.
And this is one of the things that he brought up when we were talking earlier today about having a generic class tree that everybody can dip into that covered certain things that maybe don't need a full subclass, like say piloting, for example.
So like releasing a tree.
Yep.
That's not a class. Just a single tree. Like instead of subclassing into a subclass, into one of the other classes, you could just go dip into that tree.
It allows some of those other classes, let's say the EOD Paladin or the Disco Bard, right? Let's say you also want to put a little juice into ranged weapons or melee or whatever. It allows you to dip into those things without having to touch the other classes, for instance. Those are still going to be good, but it's like the generalist tree. So that might be something that comes soon.
I mean, I think that's smart.
You even have like weapon focused ones like SMG tree.
Yes, well, and I think that makes sense. You would live in a world that's so full of technology and you wouldn't be able to understand it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see that happen in a fight and be like, oh, this is probably something I should learn a little bit about.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, wow, my gun stopped working because that guy on the computer over there made it stop. Maybe I should look into that. Yeah.
Isn't it? That's...
Well, yeah, and that was the joy of it, and that's something we were talking about doing. Going forward is like little shorts on making a character.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be Sun Wukong, the Monkey King in the cyberpunk future. Here's how we would do it. And
I told you about that character.
Yes.
But real quickly, last kind of close off on to hit.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I don't think what we did, right? We actually got rid of the damage dice.
Yes.
So damage is your static number.
Yep.
Hitting is your variable.
Yep.
And so I can't. Damage being your variable, that's one approach.
Yeah.
I actually like the idea of, yes, you can miss.
Yep.
As long as you're given enough things to help you hit.
Yes.
Or you get bigger damage with a riskier chance to hit, right? The agency is yours to kind of decide.
Yep. And
play around with that, and then I never need to worry, if I hit, my damage is always this.
That's it. I think that the reason that losing your turn feels so bad is because, I've put this effort in and I've done nothing. But for me, I think that it would feel even worse to go through all the trouble of buffing and getting myself, and then you roll a 1 on your damage dice, and you're like, oh.
Great. Well, and expend all this fuel and still fail.
This is at least making sure that the effort you put in reaps some reward, right?
And now, mind you, both of these systems, whichever way you fall, is better than the current, which is you roll to hit and you roll for damage. So even if you do land,
that's it.
You still have the terrible. I did crap damage. Great.
Sort of doubly screwed. There's two frustrating mechanics that I think will really.
And it's not discounting the hilarity and joy you get from those D20 swings.
Oh, of course.
But
there's a reason why these systems have been so popular for so long. I mean, they are fun.
Just the memes from Baldur's Gate 3 about rolling ones far more consistently than there should be.
Yes, no, exactly, no. There is something very, very fun about that randomness, but I think that one of the reasons why it seems almost less frustrating in a video game, Baldur's Gate 3 is a good example of this. It's less frustrating in a game because there's so much narrative built around it. And you're playing with it's me, right? It's just me, and no one else is going to be like, that was dumb.
Yeah.
I don't have, antagonistic people. Because I think a lot of times you're thinking, well, it's a great group that I'm playing with, and I hope that it is, but it isn't always. You don't always have the most skilled DM or the most forgiving players or anything like that.
And And naturally, I mean, you experienced this a little bit in the Bright Steel Factory mission when you were rolling like hot garbage.
Yep.
But like, imagine that rolling in a D20 system.
Yes.
Is actually like epically more worse. I mean, we're talking about Nat failing all the time, which is getting you in arguably even worse positions.
And I think even with as bad as I was rolling, I was still able to down people, right?
You stayed up.
And that's the thing. I was also able to survive, right? In a D20 system, that would be very, very tough to do, and feel very unsatisfactory. And it's the fact that you can do bad and still feel like, wow, I put a lot into this. I'm not dead. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think helps people not immediately be turned off to it, right? Because if that's your first showing of any system and you're just getting beat down, there's a really fine line that you have to tread between like, this person will never pick up this game ever again because they had such a bad experience, or they feel rewarded even though it was not an ideal situation, even though things didn't go their way, the dice didn't fall the way that they wanted them to.
Well, and even from a design standpoint too, that's why we redid most of the Net Diver stuff after our first experience with Kel.
Yeah.
And then her experience in the net diving space, and it's such an abstract, weird space to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, it really isn't if you're breaking it down. It's just another
map, but the moment things get neon, everyone's scared.
It's like, this isn't natural.
I'm by myself in the interwebs.
What did you expect when I said digital neon space?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it wasn't this.
Something different, like a mall from the 90s. But this is very scary.
There are grid lines. What does this mean?
Yeah.
Weird shapes that don't make sense, but they do.
But yeah, we definitely improved upon that formula.
A
couple of times.
And that's really kind of a big tenet. And I wailed on it early on, where we're not trying to make this product to be, on mom and dad's fridge.
Yeah.
Right. We're here to build something for the community to enjoy and want to grow with.
Yep.
And by all rights, and this may be me, hubris, I don't know what it is, I want to beat the hell out of all the other TTRPG companies out there, because I think we can do it better.
Yeah.
I think we've done it better, and I think we can provide better service to everybody.
Well, I think it's just, I don't know. I think it's going to be a little bit harder for us, in the sense that we are approaching this very differently than what I'm seeing other people approach, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
When you can, like, when we drop a class, or reveal a class, it's not like, the typical class page everybody's used to sort of seeing in a D&D game. And when we talk, like, you get to choose what abilities to go. I mean, like, it feels a little bit harder to grasp, but I think soon as people play it and touch it, it's going to come pretty intuitively of just being like, oh, that's why I always run with this plug and play thing. Just like, it's like Legos. It's just like, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and you can have all of that, and just go.
And I think that it's smart for you guys to kind of, stuff like character sheets, having ready-made characters is smart, and explaining what those characters should be focusing on is smart, because I think that with a system that is going to be, for most people, completely novel. I mean, like, this is not a system that people have played anything close to in the past. The more training wheels you kind of have, the better.
We've come to realize this with the groups.
Yeah. Well, I think that, having videos, having how-tos, having, like, here's how I do this, here's examples of this, will go a really long way, because it can be daunting learning any new system, but especially one that you don't have a whole lot of, like, corollaries with,
Yeah, and that's something we talk about a little bit it's almost like a fantasy TTRPG detox. Like, we're trying to figure out, like, how do you think critically and abstractly in a setting where, like I said before, the rock isn't going to tell you any new information, but that computer in the corner sure as hell.
Exactly.
Yes. You've got the internet in your brain. Right? You can just sort of look stuff up. You don't need to, like. It is a very different type of setting.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that's going to become more popular. You know,
so, yeah.
I mean, like there's a lot. There's a lot of modernity shoved into fantasy RPGs, right? But I think that it's easier for your imagination to put yourself in a world that's far similar to ours, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah, you've got all this. We've got a lot of the tech. It's just
that was what was most surprising for me is like for fantasy. And maybe it's just because that's where all TTRPG, generally where most people get a start in TTRPGs, so they just get used to thinking that way. But for me, it was like, you don't have to do all that much of a thought leap from where you are today to like, okay, yeah, of course there's law enforcement if I'm too loud that are going to come, or like, there's internet, except it's just a little bit easier to access, but I know how to use the internet. But it was surprising to me running my first couple of games and people being like, how do we talk to each other? I'm like, kind of talk to each other. I don't know. It's in your brain.
I don't know.
It's like a cell phone, except you don't have to put it to your ear.
Yeah, it's just there.
You don't even need to mouth the words, technically.
It's like, hey, can I talk to him right now? I'm like, yeah, of course. Yeah. But I mean, like, but in D&D you can't. Not unless you got like a magic talking stone or whatever they call it.
Yes, the sending stone.
Yeah.
And I think that there is something to. I think a lot of GM philosophy, and it varies obviously widely by who you're playing with, but I think that there are GMs out there who really try to make the minutia of a game the difficult part of it, right? Like, oh, well, you didn't know this, but that's a kind of lock you can't pick, and you didn't prepare correctly, so oopsie doopsie.
See, this, folks, is why we want lots of playtesters, because I've only ever played with this guy. So I don't know the cadence of a different GM or the mindset or what they want to see.
This is also why, if you're a magic user, and you're a wizard, you always take knock. For that reason there.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, really? Well, then knock. Although that doesn't stop your GM from being like, it's a special magic to knocking.
That's it. Yeah, I think that there's. I'm always afraid to play with a new GM because, like, I don't know how much they're going to rewrite the rules just to like and this is part of I think why a sort of D20 got a roll to hit sort of system is also very difficult because I think it's a natural reaction if you see your party whipping through things you thought were going to be difficult. You want to insert difficulty into the game, and I think sometimes a lot of the systems there don't have good mechanisms to do that, right? So it does become, well, this door is magically locked and you've never seen this magic before, so go back to the drawing board, right?
And what feels bad about that is it's kind of like a roundabout way to say no to your player.
Yes. No, I wouldn't even say it's a roundabout way.
Yep.
It's simply saying no to your players. It robs agency. I've seen that so much in GMs and have had to avoid it myself as much as I don't want to. As much as I wanted to tell you guys to go into that tomb that I had set up for the first mission, you guys were hell-bent on not going in there, and so I was like, okay, I had to literally tell you guys, like, guys, actually, you just circumvented all of my material. We're going to wrap up, that's okay. And you guys felt bad about it, but I'm like, we're just going to wrap up and come back because that's just how it goes. And so let's just keep on going this way. But a lot of GMs, they spend so much time and energy, and they just refuse to let go of their kind of course.
Yep.
Well, and we learned from our initial dip into Shadowrun with the two-stage system, kind of, right? Yeah, well, the character-made and regional.
The theoretical dip into Shadowrun.
Well, and you've actually played through it.
Yes.
Yeah, how did Shadowrun, like, did you ever find that the contacts played a major role? Like, I remember the book talking about contacts, but there was never really any structure beyond, you have contacts.
Yeah,
You can talk. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we're recording, but you're welcome to speak.
Okay. So, I don't know how long you guys are going to be doing this.
Just chew on the fat.
Oh, okay. So, at about 5 or 5:30, I'm going to go to Carboni's get pizza.
Oh, cool.
So you guys are welcome to stay.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty much just recording and spitballing, and this will be fodder for online. So, just adware and talking. And people like to listen to developers discuss their soup and ingredients.
Their pizzas that they like.
Coffee, how cold affects people.
Whiny Mediterraneans.
Right. Oh, did you?
those weak Mediterraneans.
Did you bring the charge plug with? Did we take that off the thing out there?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
It's
gonna
in
plug
the camera. It's in the front pouch of the camera bag.
I'm gonna do that. Plug that in because we're gonna go through.
Yeah. So contacts and Shadowrun.
I think so.
So I'm gonna get a large sausage, large pepperoni, and then a large chicken with white sauce.
Cool. Yeah. I'm not picky. I like vegetables, but it's easier if we don't go that route. So.
So that okay. So
I think contacts.
We're all welcome to stay.
Nope. Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Cool.
They played a.
One of them doesn't work.
They played an interesting role. So they were definitely something that was important.
For that one, we were doing
the
ledger board.
I also think that Sam
did a good job GMing them.
Did a very good job. And you have met Rob.
I go, God damn it! No,
Rob from Alaska.
Yes. Yeah. So Sam would have him bop in.
Oh, as a contact.
On our calls. Yes.
Awesome.
And so like that made it really fun.
Yeah.
Lone junction box.
And so we always wanted to call him.
Yeah.
Because we were we were just excited to have him play. And so there was a. Contacts were important, but I think that there was a.
Continue.
They were important, but they were also kind of optional.
Okay.
Right.
That's the sense I got from it. It didn't feel like there was this.
The way that you guys have it set up, I think, is a smart way to do it because you need to use your contacts, right? Like it's
using it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even
then you might want to.
You probably should. If nothing more, spend all of your influence on a call and then rush off.
Yeah.
Get the information after for style points.
Yeah. Call your granny and be like, "Hey, Grandma, I'm going. I don't know if I'm coming back, but just want to let you know."
That guy who won one of the first people who won Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He called his dad. He's like, "I don't actually need help. I just want to let you know that I'm going to win $1 million because I know."
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
There is something very neat about that, but it's like going into combat without a weapon, right? It feels that important.
Yeah.
And that is something that again, compared to fantasy RPGs, to really any other sort of tabletop RPG, working contacts doesn't come naturally to people, right?
I
think in one of the recordings I was like, well, maybe we should call someone, right?
I could hear the facial emotion
because like you aren't if you are coming from a fantasy setting, you aren't used to having a cell phone in your brain. You aren't used to having a list of people to call.
But it's so interesting though. Could we talk about it in the video?
So I bring up part of that with these contacts, and it really was driven home in this last game test in this last group when me and Cal came up with new characters.
Yeah.
When everybody took the time to flesh out their contacts a little bit and give some more background, where your GM normally has to be ready for the session where you're going to town in a village. Well, your village is in your head now.
Yeah.
And by actually fleshing out not just your character's backstory, and this is what I'm going to end up recommending in the book, is when you're crafting your contacts, not only write a little paragraph about their background, but I encourage people to write a paragraph about how your character and that contact meant.
Yeah.
How that relationship started or grew, because that gives fuel to the GM to build that village for you from anywhere, without and it's not this abstract guesswork anymore.
Yeah, but that is a really cool way of putting it. You know, like you can have the village blacksmith, but he's in your head and he's able to help you wherever.
Go order from your machinist down the road.
Right. Exactly. No, and contacts are hugely important. The current mission we're running, right?
Oh my God!
We've got a parade, so we're hopefully not going to kill people.
Not only did you get a parade, but you got your sprawl doc doing the surgery. Another person to do the surgery.
You got him employment.
Yes.
Oh, I wish you were there for our Tuesday night.
Yeah,
we did some crazy stuff in there, and Brandon showed up, which actually saved the entire evening.
Yeah. He showed up and he's like, "Oh, actually, I'll join in."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, this is still pre-game stuff.
So I guess he was at his place making tiramisu for all of his fellow employees.
nice.
Of course.
And we're going in and we're broadcasting this, and he ends up becoming just a huge, wonderful distraction that then led to us actually finding out about, which we'll update you guys on, the other contacts the other enemies and opponents we didn't talk about. We never talked about Cleveland. We never talked about their special net diver.
Ooh,
she has a whole retinue of bodyguards and people that we didn't even discuss.
Great.
Really spicy.
And we even got access to the surgery table, and he made friends with the gangers up top to let us in. He even had a face-to-face with Cleveland as he's scouting the area. It was a little terrifying.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that
He's a hoot, by the way.
Oh my gosh, Brendan's funny.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
He's on. He knows.
I love that guy. I could riff with that guy forever. He's a blast.
Well, and
he's a rare find. I was very happy though.
Do you know his background?
Mm-mm.
Sorry, this is my
No,
timer.
Yeah, no, I've got no idea.
So I met from a friend of a friend. Let me reset the camera here real quick. So we've actually been talking for like 60 minutes.
Nice.
So his background, I met him a friend through a friend, but he's been GMing as long as Paul has from his youth and his childhood. And on top of that, over COVID, he was standing up a GM service that was becoming successful for GMing in houses and locations and stuff.
He wants to come up with a GM accreditation.
So you can get paid for it.
Right.
That would be really cool.
Being like, so then you know that, GMs at a store is like, oh yeah, that's an accredited GM who really knows their stuff versus just some wackadoodle person who's going to rules lawyer you and just be like a fun time.
Gives you leverage to get paid a decent wage to do this incredibly complex job, to be frank.
Well, and it's tough. I think that the gaming community talks about it or not, but like there's a real ethical thing that comes down to this. Like, you don't want to ruin someone's time. You don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable or unsafe. Like it's a video game that you don't like, you can uninstall.
Right.
But oftentimes you're at a physical location with people. You are talking to strangers, and that's...
And having a negative social interaction has ramifications.
Yeah, exactly. It's huge, right?
Yeah. And this goes to the social side of what we were talking about too, because not only would we like to help him stand up that accreditation, we're also talking about the campfire conversation when it comes to the social interactability that we've lost in society. Can we, through tabletop RPGs, help usher younger generations into a better social standing with each other?
Yeah.
Can you interact with people? Can you talk with people? Are you not just isolated in a bubble in your phone?
Can you solve problems?
Yeah.
Right?
Critical thinking
that is such a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, so we're talking about that with him. He's got that kind of experience, but and this is going to sound kind of selfish.
Yeah.
Because he's what he is.
Yeah.
We all might get to play together at some point as characters.
That would be a
I'll believe it
blast.
when I see it.
That would be a...
The forever GM over here is genuinely skeptical.
That would be... I have never played...
Right?
No?
Right?
Wait!
Did we play together?
Sam,
very briefly in Vlad.
Very briefly, yes.
I was a monk.
Yes, Curse of Strahd.
Yeah, I think I did one mission with you guys.
That was the only time I've ever been able to play with you as an actual player. Yeah! Yeah, wow.
So we really like Brandon.
Well, and he... I can immediately... That information all squares. Like, he's just... a fun to get along.
Well, in the medical stuff too, that's what he does. He works at a hospital, and he's actually in the surgery room with the surgeon.
An unintentional.
That I figured, because he was like, no, this is how it works.
Yeah,
Oh.
That's his job. That's his profession.
This was an unintentional soft pitch to him. His first mission.
Yeah.
Future missions won't be as easy to just go around BSing you where
His team is help.
Social services and stuff. We're use everyone's work experience. No.
He's
that's
great.
he is.
He's a cool dude, so.
But no, for context, I think that it's a muscle that will be new for a lot of players to use. And like I let him know in Shadowrun, we had I think you've met Rob too, Alaska Rob.
Yeah.
He would call in as one of the contacts during our stuff, and so like it was always fun to talk to Tony. Tony, Tiny Tony, and he, but you've done, I think, a very good job, and I would encourage anybody else running a campaign like this to do so. Make the contacts exciting to chat with, make them fun, make them Cousin is like, I was so sad that I had nothing for Cousin to do this time because I just like him. He's fun, right?
Yeah.
He's a contact you want to call, and I think that is such an important bit to this is having your contacts be people you want to call, right?
Yeah.
And something I didn't realize as a min-maxer in my brain, because I'm always looking for systems I can break or stuff that interacts really well and interestingly, something that I had no idea would be this influential in your character is your contacts can shore up the weak points in your character dramatically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And giving them that kind of baseline, that net diver access for a melee character, for instance, that's huge. That changes the game because you effectively have 3 characters.
Yes.
At least, if not, you have more contacts.
That's where, like, it takes even the village one step further. That I think, like, first of all, yes, just getting people to think, okay, call my contacts to get information, right? Yep. I'm actually surprised because I think that has been the area that I've seen people pick up on rather quickly.
Okay.
Like, I feel like it did not take somebody like Kel, who is a brand new player, being like, I don't know what, and then she's just like, in fact, even in the first mission, she, like, starts flirting with her drug dealer contact or whatever, and then has, like, a little romance going. But it's like, I think people really want, that's, like, a lot of people play TTRPGs or come to TTRPGs because they're, you know, because they want more expansive universe than a video game can give.
Yeah.
And so they're all excited. That's why people get really distracted when you go into town in a fantasy-based game because everybody's like, let's go talk with people and ask the random guy at the bar if he's heard any rumors, you know?
Yes. Well, that's the thing. I think that seeing, because we didn't create our contacts when we made our characters in Shadowrun, right? And I didn't create my characters when I made my character here. I inherited those lovely individuals.
Cousin was a wonderful
who I do adore, right? I still haven't ever talked to Talisman Shop guy. One day. But no, when you get to a town in a fantasy RPG, you're like, I don't know anyone here, right?
Let's go to the shop.
Yeah. But being able to build your own contacts, I think, is really smart. You know, I don't know if I go into a town, if I'm a wizard, is there going to be a wizard's tower here? No, but I can say, I've got a friend who's also a scion.
Yep.
She's my contact, right? And I can get help.
She's good at this.
Exactly. Yes. Yep.
Regardless of distance and location, might be in a different district in the city. Who knows? Doesn't matter.
And then the next step, what run home the village concept, is. Okay, but like you know, you call it Foop.
Yes. Lord Foop.
And you have a whole parade shutting down a street with it's not about information.
Yep.
It's literally changing the parameters of your mission.
Yes.
And, like, I love that. That's where I wanted contacts to go to. And, in fact, you can even, and an area I even talk about in the book is, like, you might be able to sell this cybernetic, but you know, a cyberdoc, I bet you he can sell that cybernetic for more than you're going to get for that cybernetic.
Yep.
So why don't you use your influence and have him sell your cybernetic and get some extra coin on the side? And so it's like you can use your contacts in every way you can use a village.
Yes. Yeah. I think that it's a new area of character creation, and in it's the entire first phase, sort of, you know, like, I mean, that is, it's, you've got weapons for combat, you've got contacts for planning, right?
Yeah.
That's what you, to put it into, like, you know, D&D terms, what you fight with the first session with, your contacts, right?
Yeah. And it's turned into an unexpected lever, honestly. I did not think this would be the tool that would propel the first sessions as much as it has.
Yeah.
Or I should say, the first session was designed to work with contacts, designed to be that way, right? But like you said, people are able to gravitate towards it and lean into it when they get past either their inexperience in role-playing or their uncomfortableness in role-playing. And in our first group, when Tony, one of our players then, for anybody who doesn't know, he leaned into it really hard right away, and everybody just picked up on it immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're able to do that.
Yep. Yep.
And I think I'm actually really happy with like how on board everybody is with the first session, because like one of my fears was like, well, is this going to be too like boring or something?
Yeah.
But I actually think it scratches that itch, that same itch of when you walk into a village and like you as a GM are trying to direct them, but they're running all over the place. But instead you've just incorporated that, built that into, okay, first session, you're doing all this kind of talking and interacting, and it scratches that itch. And now when it's time to pull the trigger, everybody's like ready.
Well, I think part of it is, so one thing that we, most of us have learned that can critically think or build things creatively for other people is restrictions and limitations are important for creativity and abstract thinking, right? Critical thinking. But if you have too many restrictions, too many borders, it's counterproductive to that.
Yep.
This is just enough, because in a fantasy setting, right, you are like, here's your goal. Now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yep.
There's no restrictions. There's no limitations that even gives you a direction.
Yeah.
Here we're pointing you in the right direction.
Yep.
Go ham.
Yep.
We're not stopping you. We're just giving you a little more to chew on.
Yeah. Yep.
It works out really well.
And I think that it splitting up the sessions like this gets people in the right mindset, right? I am not going into session 1 thinking, oh, I can't wait to kill people, that's going to be a blast, right? Like, I'm not in combat mode. Because that's not what the first session's about. That's about planning. That's about
coming up with a strategy with your team.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a social time, right? Mission 2, let's let loose, right?
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's a blast.
Yeah.
But I think the first mission, not only do people feel like they go in locked and loaded and ready, but they also kind of know the people that, for a first time group playing together.
You get to know your teammates.
That's it. Like, I've got an idea of who I'm playing with by the time we're going into the second session. Both their characters and as people, right? I mean, like, if I can...
Brandon's mom.
That's it, yeah.
She works the black market.
Yeah, she's intense. But, like, that is such a cool and unique thing. And something that I think can go a really long way, getting new players comfortable with the game and everything.
So on that note,
before
we keep on riffing, so you're playing a Scion, and I know I sort of made that character for you, but it was really based off of you. So
Yep.
I don't know a good place to start, but you want to talk about your character, what your character does, what you.
So yeah, let's. We're all in a campaign together in the main test group right now. I'm playing a net diver now, and Connor's playing our wonderful Scion. And what drew you to the class? Let's start there.
So I love magic users.
Before we go nuts, let's give everybody an idea of what your background in
Yeah.
Like how long have you been playing, what you've been doing?
So I've been playing tabletop RPG since I was a kid. So I think I started playing around 5th grade.
Okay. Oh, wow. For context, not to date us, we're all between 30 and 40.
Yeah. So that would have been about 2000.
Contrary to looks.
Yeah, believe it or not. No, that probably would have been around 2003. So I've been doing this for, a few decades at this point.
Since I started going to college back in the day.
Yeah.
That was my first year of college.
That's crazy, yeah. So I've been playing, I've played 3.
What was your first? Was it 3.5?
What was my first? I think it was 3.5 D&D.
Yeah. Context, they're veterans. I started playing in 5th edition.
Yeah. So I played 3.5.
Yeah.
Played 4th. D&D, 4th ed D&D. Much maligned, but I was a kid.
Yeah.
4th ed was like, oh, okay, this was sort of like a video game almost, right?
Yeah.
And that really did get me into. That's what I spent a lot of time with.
Okay.
Played Pathfinder eventually, obviously 5th Ed. I've played Shadowrun, I've played Cyberpunk, I've played Call of Cthulhu,
I forgot that you played Cyberpunk Red.
Yes. Yes, I have.
Am I getting just joyous feeling?
Wasn't my favorite.
Call of Cthulhu, yeah.
Call of Cthulhu, jeez. Warhammer, the fantasy RPG, yep.
Nice.
Which is, I will say, I've never had Ratcatcher as a class anywhere else, but like you can do that. Right. You know, like that is kind of wild.
Did you ever play Starfinder?
Yes, Starfinder.
Okay.
One of the old Star Wars RPGs too.
Oh yeah, that's where I started. Mine was the ancient.
Yes,
ancient
the old
Star
like
Wars.
the like sort of the
D6. Yeah, that also had body hit charts, I think, as well.
I think
a more simplistic one.
Yeah.
Yeah, old school Star Wars TTRPG.
I played none of these things.
Yeah, and then I've also played like a lot of tabletop games generally. I've played a lot of Warhammer and Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40K. So I've spent my time in a comic book store. Is what I'm trying to what I'm trying to establish.
Well, that's the part that threw me when his wife was telling us about the fact that the most popular after-school clubs are D&D clubs at high schools now.
In her middle school, like the D&D club is where every kid wants to be.
That's blowing my mind because if I did that back when I was a kid, I'd get the crap kicked out of me.
Correct.
It is interesting. I remember the first day I went to this one was seared into my brain. I remember the first day I went to go get Warhammer. With Sam. We went to Air Traffic in Rosedale Mall.
I remember that.
And like again, 2003. There's a weird transition time, right? Where oh my gosh, what am I saying? I definitely played stuff. Okay, this is going to be a throwback for your viewers, if any of them remember this game. So there was a game called Mage Knights that was remade into like a boxed board game, but it used to be like a mini game, a miniatures game, with like clickable hex bases that were changed based on damage, and I think that was probably my first like comic book store game that I ever played. I remember going to Shinders, which is a throwback for anyone listening locally. Shinders, because my sister danced at Larkin, and they were in the same strip mall. And that's so I remember going in there and getting Mage Knight boosters. And did we understand the rules? No. I did not get the rules, but the figs were cool, right? And so we'd play. I remember there was a snow day back when I was in 6th grade, and we went out and we bought a bunch of those, and we played those. On Mergen's like kitchen table. So anyway, I digress.
That reminded me, we were talking about an old shop that we used to go to.
Yeah.
High Score.
High Score, yeah.
Oh yeah.
In that really sketchy strip mall.
The very yeah.
They still have a location. Apparently, it's in Roseville.
They do.
They
do. Yes. Yep.
Is it Roseville or Maplewood? I don't know.
They've got a High Score has.
There used to be the Maplewood Mall. They had a little stand there.
They had a kiosk here. Yeah, There's one in, I think it's technically Woodbury, or maybe it's Oakdale.
Right in that area there,
yeah, right. And there's like a little strip mall there.
So they have 2 locations, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, good on them.
They actually have a store now, from what it looked like. So,
Yep. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
But like there was this transition, I think. From these games kind of being for older adults, and they weren't remarkably popular, to slowly, because I was as a child of this transition, right? I mean, Dawn of War came out for Warhammer, like that was big, right? When I was a kid, I remember playing Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
And so sort of seeing these games get into video games, and as those became more popular, I've been able to kind of grow with that. So anyway, that's kind of my experience. I've played a lot of these games, and so I'm coming into this. I've obviously DM'd before.
Yep. You've GM'd as well.
Yep. I've been fortunate enough to be a player more than I've GM'd, which is no slight against GMs. I like to play.
Me too.
I
think.
Yeah,
How would you know?
yeah. I get stressed out when I'm a GM because I want everyone to have a good time. So if I'm a player, I just want to have a good time. So character creation for me.
Yeah. So what drew you to the Scion? What is it that you wanted?
I'm always drawn towards whatever sort of magic-y classes there are. I just, that really resonates with me as a player. I love that kind of fantasy. And so the Scion class fit that, right? I wanted someone who would shoot stuff with their mind, right? The energy blasts and stuff. And so I went with org manifestation. So I can imbue my hands. I can imbue objects, and add some nice additional.
Now you got bulwark, right?
Yeah. Now I've got bulwark, which is going to which would have been great.
It's the last mission, I know. Yeah.
A mission ago, but that's fine.
You and me survived it. I was.
We did.
Hits.
Blows my mind, but yeah, we did walk away.
Well, that's something when we were doing the Tuesday night session to kind of tie some of the stuff up. We started just having Brandon roll dice over the mic because none of us had dice at the time, and the rolls were just universally shit.
Yeah.
Except for the GMs.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah.
It's great. So I wanted a character who could be that sort of human artillery.
Yeah.
And also, I think develop a character that maybe played a little bit of I think that often in cyberpunk games there's like this club mentality, and so I like playing characters who are like a little bit more, I don't know.
Pizzazz.
Yeah, something a little bit more grounded almost, so that's why I went with my character. Making the character was obviously not my job, but so it was especially easy for me.
To preface some of that, our initial run when we first put these groups together, we just did some pre-made characters based on what our players wanted.
Yep.
But again, we're at a stage now where
the truth is, it would have been pretty much the exact character I made anyway, right? And that when after our sort of first run, we were able to make our own characters, and this was really the character that I wanted to play. We've now gone through a period where I've played with this character through a couple of missions, leveled up, gained some gear. The whole process for that really is just a continuation of character building, right?
Right.
As a Scion, I'm using a lot of edge dice. Well, it sure would be cool if I could get more of those, right? And the Scion is a class that really plays to the class itself, right? That's what you're working on. There's a bunch of different skill trees for Scions, and I've chosen to sort of focus on one right now. So a lot of my character's been upping resonance values and stuff so that I can shoot people with my mind better, and that's cool. I'm a big fan of that.
Well, and we look at some of the mutation stuff too. Even one of our adjusted items is druidic chest.
Oh yeah,
mutation,
it's too late for that though.
Well, it's not as broken.
It is.
He's already got a metabolism.
Oh,
I got my metabolizer.
That's right,
He's got a hyper metabolic system.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it. Yep.
Arguably just as good as the druidic.
But I want to, I wanted a character to kind of explore what being a Scion was, because this is in the game world, a relatively new thing. I mean, this is not something that humans have had.
They're rare and in demand and desire.
Yeah. Yep.
In our universe.
And so I wanted to play a character that could kind of explore what that kind of looks like. And so that's been character creation for me. I mean, it's been every time looking through when I get class points looking through, being like, God, it'd be really cool to throw boulders at people, but like wanting to hold on because
you want to get that focused ability.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's been.
Do you think you're gonna focus class, or do you think you're gonna subclass?
It's so hard to not want to dip, right?
It really is tough because the sort of like combined stuff is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, auric manifestation with sort of the telekinesis stuff would be so
Turning into
cool.
Gambit?
Yeah, right?
And the Scion is unique in that sense because you get the combined focused abilities from multiple trees of the Scion.
Yep.
So it's like, it's just daring you to focus.
It is, yeah, that's it. You know, like it is tough.
I bet you won't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, you probably won't be wrong. So, you know, we'll kind of see where it goes,
Okay.
but I've been holding out to focus.
Mm.
I really have been.
No,
you
it's
never
good.
know.
Yeah.
Well, now you have psychic shielding you can
Finally,
place on people.
yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah?
That'll be good.
Oh my gosh,
that should
yeah.
hopefully keep our team from being,
And a stone's throw away from being
Perfect.
able to mend people if you want.
which is going to be.
Slapping on HP.
Oh, yeah.
Armor.
That will be helpful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very interested to see because our team dynamic is going to shift pretty dramatically with Otto.
Yeah, losing your dedicated combatant. Well, I mean, other than
Yes.
Vect, who's certainly a very capable
That's it.
battery.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking, right? Because you had, in my brain, as the net diver trying to support you all.
Yep.
You three,
Yep.
including Brandon now with Zircon. The team comp was nutty cool. Like you've got your mid-ranged buffing, debuffing, destructive capabilities of the Scion. Otto's fast-paced, shred it until my eyes are closed.
Berserk.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then big boy Zircon over here that's just gonna be a mountain of HP and armor to get through.
Yeah. Yep.
You guys would be just an amazing strike team, and then I'm in the background trying to screw whatever's around you guys.
Yeah.
While
And
Kel's
Kel's
coming from the
helping.
backside
That's
to do what needs to be done where nobody's looking.
Yep.
Like, it was just a wonderful team comp, and you and Zircon are going to be monsters,
Yes.
let's be honest.
I'm excited.
And Cal, I mean, Cal can certainly go in the front end
Yes.
as well,
Yeah.
just kind of lurking on the edges and then coming in.
I want nobody to know she's there, and then suddenly, shit, she's on
Yes.
top of somebody.
Yes.
with you
Well, not
guys.
just shit, but it's a mutant snake lady.
Yeah.
Like,
Racing
people are gonna
action.
literally be crapping themselves.
That's it. Yeah. It'll definitely be tough.
Thought this was only in the Hunger Game commercials.
Yeah. She does have definitely this horror aspect to
Oh
it,
yeah,
which,
and especially how she's kind of playing her too. It's like this demure, shadowy,
Yeah,
half
she's-
quiet. It's very different from Birdie.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, quite the departure.
Drug-addled net diver.
Yep.
Yes. Quite the departure. But I'll take it. I think she'll be
I
fine.
wonder what Missy will play.
I think it's a good team. I think it's a good team setup. Yeah, I mean, that's the question. And I mean, Missy's first character was the EOD Paladin. She really likes her EOD
The
Paladin.
Juggernaut, yeah.
But that was before, I mean, quite substantial changes in a lot of different areas. Like, that was, gosh, I don't...
But she's always kind of wanted to play the druid, the mutagen druid.
Mutagen Druid, she wanted, like, at the time, the Sprawl Doc really didn't have, like, a dedicated support tree. It was all very different. So now, like, I don't know, she always really liked support characters. So I could see her looking at the Sprawl Doc or continuing on with the EOD Paladin, but the EOD Paladins had updates.
Yeah. I could even see her doing some Scion stuff.
Yeah.
Two
go
Scions
on.
there.
Scion. Or,
Oh, they're
Yeah.
so flexible too.
she
It's
can go a lot of ways.
It's like the Disco Bard and the Scion are just the jack of all trades, awesome that do everything. It's like great frosting on top of a good cake.
Let's be more specific. The Fortune Maker
I guess, yeah.
is one ability tree in the Disco Bard
That's true.
that can be fitted out to do those sort of things. The other Disco Bard trees are far more focused at, like, social
Yeah.
or Omni and manipulation side of
Have
things.
that dice control. So.
Yeah, you just really like the Fortune Maker. You're a big fan of
I'm
that.
a big fan because of the stuff we learned when playing like Warhammer and tabletop and the actual mini game tabletop stuff and boards and more. Yay! So I'm a big fan of the fortune maker because you're dictating fate in the sense that you're adjusting your dice to fit your needs, and it doesn't matter how you're rigged out to do that as a fortune maker. You can be as heavily armored as the next EOD paladin, but you just get to choose how your dice roll. Well,
I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration. You're basically just playing with edge dice. Your edge dice are just better. Well, but it's not like you're choosing what you roll on your d6s by hand.
I want 6s.
Well, there we go. I rolled a natural 18 again.
Wow, I can't believe it. Max numbers. This is really fun.
Well, let's just say we prevented that from happening.
Yeah.
No, it's certainly you're getting you are just ramping up what your edge dice are capable of, and it has some great combos in the game and can pair very nicely with a lot of. I mean, it's a great tree also to dip into. If you really want to maximize, if you're going to use not for a Scion actually, like. Because Scion wants to save all their edge dice for ability activation.
Exactly. That's what's funny to me. Playing a Scion, and when we were, when Desh was a character, I was like, God, he's using a lot of edge dice for things that aren't his class. I'm like, oh, this is all I'm saving my edge dice for. I want to keep this. I want to keep this going.
Now, in that mindset though, have you felt almost like you need more? Have you felt debilitated by it?
I wouldn't. It's something that I need to think about when I'm going into something, right? I would say it's been a lot better since I got the
metabolic system.
That's it.
That's one.
That mouthful. It's been much better since I got that. I want to make sure that I'm always doing my Scion thing. So it hasn't felt limiting.
Yeah.
What it has caused is I think some very intentional decision making. In the last combat situation that we were in, using edge dice to get away from Dash was good. It was in a way a tough decision because that's an edge dice I don't get back. On the other hand, I keep my head and body intact.
You aren't ripped to shreds.
That is also a pretty big plus, right?
And that's something we're cognizant of, or we want to hear back from as your character grows, because the ammo system, if you will, of edge dice for a Scion, we want it not to feel like it's a punishing mechanic.
And mind you, I will say this, being the one who made the Scion, I think the Auric manifestation, and especially how it's laid out, is probably going to feel the edge dice more keenly, because when you look at the other ability trees, a lot of them, I mean, you could potentially just be a telekinetic manipulation guy and have literally nothing else and just be lifting stuff and throwing stuff, and you run into the same sort of issue of am I going to have enough edge dice? But I think most of the other ability trees you're going to see coupled with, and I've got an SMG and I'm using my abilities coupled with these other systems. Auric manifestation can be a standalone, I don't need any other gear. It's a very direct, that's why I actually, when I actually used your character as a beginning template for a Scion, an easier one to pick up because it's very direct. It's just my psychic powers directly turn into combat capabilities. And that's what they do. As where a lot of these other trees, they're more abstract, or they're more complicated maneuvers that are going on. And so I think Auric Manifestation is probably going to feel that the most keenly at first versus any other build.
And I think that, as I've continued to up both of my resonator battles and stuff, that has gone a very long way.
You're dealing more damage and
now and they're lasting longer, right?
How much more damage are you doing per hit with those bonuses?
One more damage per
hit. So you're
hit.
doing what, 3 per?
3 per. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So his next buff will still keep his little blast at 3, but his big blast will get another 1.
Yep.
And then an amp after that. So when you get your amp to 5, then you would go up to 4 per little one. That's going to be mean. So it takes some time.
How much money is that? Because
it's a lot.
With Tuesday's mission, we actually completed the secondaries for you guys. So you're guaranteed so I think outside of things spilling out into the street, the secondary and tertiary are completed for a mission.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
So I think that's at least $3,000, if not 4, on top of the something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's
you guys are set to make a pretty penny if you pull off the main objective.
That's it. Yeah. It's a big if.
Hey, we're pretty well prepared this
You guys
time.
are definitely way better prepared than last time.
And so to let you all know, Paul likes to craft wonderful threads of storylines between missions and other things like that. And
That's an important one you should probably know about.
Because I'll bring it up here. And something that Paul, and maybe it's just because it's me, but I did not connect that dot, and it was very disappointing. And I spent a good hour racking my brain to figure out what I missed, and it's because I didn't take good enough notes.
To all the forever GMs out there, you know exactly what this is like when you plant subtle but should be obvious enough hints and threads throughout things, and then every single person who should know it just literally glosses over and continues on, and you're just like, oh.
So the first mission that we went through with the Bright Steel,
well,
they were the ones that had the schematics for...
Oh, yeah, for the brain thing.
Yep.
So we didn't get those.
And so when they went back in the evening, they found that it was super crowded and people's EMS signals were duplicating. And it ends up that the Cyber Parlor new form is using the emulators to create identical EMS schematics.
Copies.
And that's where their money flow is coming in from.
Fake IDs, if you will.
But then...
Yeah.
So they get the paperwork.
Yeah.
And Kel reads off who is supplying the money.
Yeah.
And just went, okay. That was it.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't connect the two, so I wasn't thinking about the previous mission. And I eventually was like... At the end of it, he's like, breadcrumbs, Josh, breadcrumbs. He sends me a message in Discord thinking I'd actually identify and connect with it. I did not. I failed miserably. And I had to go back and I racked my brain and I'm looking through my notes. I'm like, what's the one thing I didn't take notes on? Well, thankfully, Kel and Brandon took wonderful notes.
Nice.
And I pinged them all.
Nice.
And I was able to make the connections.
But that brings up a point of, I think as a GM, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a little bit more of a challenge, I think, than in like a fantasy campaign situation. Or because these are all like missions and contracts being handed out. It's going to feel a little bit strange, and your players are not going to necessarily be looking.
Pause. Players aren't looking.
Your players aren't going to necessarily be looking for those. These all just feel like isolated one-offs.
Yes.
But I desperately want this game to be larger than that and have a grander narrative going on. And I think it's absolutely possible, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a barrier to get people starting to think about, like, oh yeah, things maybe there is a bigger story being told here.
And I think that there is something to be said for like in a fantasy setting, who's always messing things up? Gods are, right? Like, gods are usually the ones, right?
Not them dragon.
Yeah. So,
Dunkle's on. Sorry.
No, like that's that sort of thing. Like you can always, you're like, oh, they're big players that I know about, and they're probably up to something, right? To the point where I think that like players who get very well versed in the lore start seeing things where they aren't. Where they're like,
your shadow.
It's another dragon cult. It's like, no, they're just kind of mean people.
Exactly.
Like they can also just be, cruel.
This is just a guru cult.
Just meanies. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that I noticed when you guys were just now talking about the different threads in a story, and it's funny. There's a bunch of television channels, like for instance, USA Today.
Yeah.
Right. You look at old shows like Burn Notice, for example.
Yep.
There's your main story arc, right?
Yep.
But then these little threads that are spinning off that play a part in that main storyline, but they're their own individual missions or episodes that tell a different story that just fleshes out the whole unit. So
no, and I think in a more cyberpunk set, I mean, Shadowrun has this to an extent. Like you've got like the dragons who own businesses and all this stuff. So you've got big players and whatnot, but I think that it can be a little different for players to say, oh, it's the company doing stuff, right? Because in a way, companies don't feel big enough, right? Yeah. Where one of the drawbacks of having it be a more modern setting is we come at it being like, well, Target would never be evil, right? They're not trying to kill everybody.
Yeah.
And I think a cyberpunk setting needs to almost do extra work to kind of make it seem
100%
grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was kind of the half goal here, whether we realized it or not, in the sense of how we not only framed the opponents in our world, but you as a house, right?
Yes.
The mercenary house puts a powerful spin on your aligned organization versus the syndicates. And I think the syndicate term is key here because you say against the corporations, that's amorphous, but then syndicates are another factor. They're separate, but it lends to the epic opponent mindset. And then we've got governments on top of it, but that's a whole different ball of wax. So.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's from our starting point anyways, and I think as we go and just like, if we're successful with this, as I come out with like expansion, when we're successful with
matter
this,
of time. You can't get rid of us. We're not.
When I come out with an expansion, the first things I want to do is offer a pathway to, going out on the streets. Like you've left the houses, and you're just tracking down work yourself and working the streets and working jobs. And the whole system behind how you do that, because that's going to function it's not like jobs are just going to be given to you. You got to go out and find those jobs and take them on. And so you can be just kind of like, that's more like an actual like cyberpunk 27/7 kind of vibe, right? Where you're just like, you're on the streets.
Yeah, you're self-employed.
Well, that's going to give a foundation for people to dive in or to dip into other groups too, at different like game stores.
But it's almost easier, like from that starting point of where you're just a band on the street.
Yeah.
It's almost easier to tell a grander, overarching story because you're free to go run after like a lead or like something happens that you find interesting. You can just go spiraling off. As where in these houses, you're getting these contracts. These contracts are handed from the houses, and so it's not undoable. It's definitely doable.
But it's trickier. I think that having a like a trajectory, or an idea of like the bigger things that your house are doing, to feel a part of. Oh, I know what they're looking to do, right? The House of Odin has been doing this, and we're really working hard, right?
You can come on in.
Yeah, come on in.
And I think that's one of the primary difficulties. Is when you're a small group, everything feels big, right? Oh my God, we're breaking into a store, and that's kind of insane, right? Right? But it's owned by a ghost, or whatever, right?
The spirit that's kind of corporeal.
But you are already in a house, right? You're already part of that big thing.
Yeah. And that house kind of tempers and flavors how you're going to play your missions.
Yes,
right?
yes. And the type of missions you go on, right? I think that House of Odin will take on, a very different kind of mission than like a House of Neon Hades or something, right?
And what we haven't explored yet, and really it's I want to kind of like, and this is something else that I think is going to be unique about the game is, of course, Crypt lets you advance. Right?
Yep.
But Crypt is also very useful to just sit on and kind of like, because that pre-phase can be about buying stuff for the actual mission before you go on the mission as well. But I think there's also potential, and we haven't explored this, of like, what happens when you call your contact and they don't answer, and they don't answer for 3 missions in a row, and you're like, where the heck is Ronnie or whoever? Where's
what happened to Newport?
Right, and you start becoming concerned, and then you find out that Newport Foop has been kidnapped or whatever. And now, like, we can go. You have to, like, if you want Newport Foop back as a contact, would you do? Because how would Cousin ever forgive you?
Exactly. That's it.
Priority 1, baby.
Now you're running a little sort of side mission to go save your contact, and that's just building like intrigue and interest in each player's world. But we haven't quite played long enough to get those sort of instances.
There's a little dip when you had Zircon's contact say, "Please don't kill her."
Oh, or no, that
was your contact.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm curious to see where that all goes.
No, and see. Yes, the thing is for me, if anybody ever gets a chance to play with me, you know, because we'll be running some test campaigns, everything, I like to treat it as close to, like, what would this look like if this was a real situation? And so, like, your decisions that you make, even down to things that you think are arbitrary, can and do matter. Like, one idea that popped in my head, not to give more away, and I don't want you guys to necessarily try and influence Zircon, but I'm like,
we won't.
You know, sure, you can keep the Atlas Gate.
Yeah.
What if you simply took the spine, reinstalled a new spine, because you're in a cyber parlor, and still installed the Atlas Gate? You're just taking back what she's stolen.
Yeah.
But, but you haven't stolen her Atlas Gate, which she paid for to get.
Yeah.
Like, do you gain an ally, or potential contact, or an ally in the future because you could have just left her dead on the table and not and stolen from her, but instead you just simply took back what she stole?
I'd like to keep her around.
I agreed, and let's be honest, it's not just her we're talking about here. She's got her net diver and
Cleveland. Have you seen the image of Cleveland?
I have not.
We will. I think he's got it there. Boys got some beef to him.
Big boy?
Yeah. Well, he's not as big as Zircon, but they squared up. He actually met him. So,
yeah.
And let's just say Cleveland likes mutations.
Yeah, nice, cool.
And if we're equating him to, say, like a daycare, he's considered a biter.
Nice. Cool. Good.
So,
well, you know,
a well-armored 7-foot biter.
It's a great thing. You need that. You need that. Every daycare needs one.
I think I have it quickly on Discord. Here, I can pop it up. You sent it to me, and I don't quite remember where it all went. But
yeah, it's on Discord there. Sorry, Julia just messaged me.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Back.
Well, and to get some of these guys as our contacts and resources is, I can only imagine a wonderful, wonderful thing. Especially based on their abilities. Plus, I don't want to have to fight Crimson Jen if I don't have to.
Oh God, you do not want to fight Crimson Jen.
Yeah, I'd rather keep her around.
Yeah, it would be.
I'd rather get more in with the Conclave too. I mean, my character personally, I'd much rather that.
Why did I post that image? I'm trying to remember.
I'm just scrolling
I'll pull out my
mine.
phone too, so I don't feel like I'm left out.
Yeah.
Yay!
Was it in discussions?
No. I thought it was a direct post. Oh, I guess I could just look up because I sent it to Brandon.
I felt like it was in our HOE campaign, but I don't think it is.
I don't know.
Maybe it was in general? Oh yeah, I think it was in
general. Yeah, I'm actually, oddly enough, not finding it.
I don't know. God,
Mr. Bendy Neck is on the website. I moved him a little bit, but he's available now. I thought it was in the campaign. I know I had it. It's on my computer right there, but that requires me to go over there and pick stuff up.
Like porn. Huh? Anyway, posted it somewhere. I'll go look for it.
We'll find it, but.
I guess I'm looking for a picture I don't know, but we'll. You know what?
Was it character discussion? Yeah, there it is.
Character discussion. Oh, someone's feeling his oats. He's a big guy. All right.
I'll hold it up to the camera so they can see.
Oh yeah, you can probably zoom in on it first.
So there's
Cleveland.
So they had.
See it. He's a beefcake.
so they got video footage of this guy, and there's like these police being called to this scene, and he just comes bull rushing out and just like takes out a whole police squad. And in the very last video, he grapples a person, and it's then that they realize his mouth is like too large, and he just like mutated mouth and just chomps the guy's neck in half.
He's a biter.
Yeah, he's a big mean boy.
So chances are he's got the meat bag, and he's at least got meat bag, we think, and
meat bag mutation.
And the jaw. What else he has? It looks like a ton of armor, but we don't know.
Oh, it's a ton of armor.
That's worrying. Yeah, I'd rather keep her alive. This guy seems like a menace.
Let me just say this. He's definitely utilizing that EOD passive.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And the net diver that came with it, I don't know what kind.
Ben's like, well, I know the medicine or whatever, and there's a part of me that's like, I get that. You also have a wisdom of 2, so you're like charisma. And your ability to convince people, though you have the technical knowledge, I agree. But you get somebody with enough of a scrutinous mind.
That's the thing, like.
Yeah.
You get a guy who's a physician, or a PhD physicist, but then he starts yelling at you about time cube.
Right.
And you're like, I get that you probably have great knowledge. This makes no sense. I don't believe a word you're saying, right? It's.
So, you might have an active mission there, Connor. You'll get to have some fun times.
Okay, all right.
Maybe. We'll see how it all plays out, but...
Here's the thing. I am nervous. I get nervous every time we have a combat encounter, but I get nervous in confined spaces.
Yeah.
We are operating on a floor of a building. Makes me nervous. Makes me nervous I don't have my safety safe. I don't have Dashed.
No, Dash will be with you.
He will? Okay.
Oh, just to finish out this mission.
Okay,
yeah, I'll play Dash.
Sweet. Okay, good.
And then we'll swap in something
Okay.
else. So I'll just play as Dashed.
That'll work.
And go bananas. And
You did very well.
I got the voice.
Yeah.
Somehow it just clicked.
No, that works. Yeah.
When I get to play, I play as Dash's brother.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey,
It's me.
I'm a douche. I'm a douche.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah.
That is going to lead for some community conversation.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Like I said, personally, very nervous.
About the next mission?
Oh yeah. Always.
I don't know.
Every combat mission, I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna absolutely die. Right.
You probably should have been alive.
What always worries me is that I'm like, I think Paul just knows now the exact amount of pressure he can exert. Not to kill.
That was that was
intense.
a dicey mission.
That was a rough mission. That was.
But it was such a learning one for you guys. Coming into this mission, your guys' pregame was so much better this time. And I feel like that's naturally where GMs are gonna have that, where people just let's get on with the combat.
Let's do it. Well, because that's what you're used to. That's what you're used to, and I think that it is very actions have consequences ish, right?
Yeah.
If you do just walk face first.
Hi.
Yeah.
What's the best way to what's the best way to start a fight?
Yeah.
Arms back, face presented. Just
It'll be interesting.
So to clarify, some people, if anybody's watching, one of the first test missions we did, we were on a clock, but we weren't, and we all. I say we. It was I pushed the group. I'm sorry, but we went a little too fast. Didn't do our double session time, and by the time we hit the double session correctly, we just walked into the building. We didn't consider sneaking, cameras, security. We just kind of went. Hell, when combat started, my character had jumped on top of the machine that held all the combat drones, and they just all spawned around me, and I'm just like, shit.
It was rough.
It was
a rough mission.
This is what we mean when we say a D&D cleanse.
In
general, you're not just moving through a dungeon from combat encounter to combat encounter. you're dealing with very dynamic spaces with consequences for those actions.
Yeah, and that's why we like the two-stage system, to give the GM the agency and fuel to prop up those systems with enough time.
Yeah, yep. And I think that, there is... It's not even just a D&D concept. It really is a, remember that technology exists.
Yeah.
Like cameras are a thing that we have today.
Yeah.
It's kind
drones.
of thinking through that. And drones. Yeah. And I, what I did notice about every cyberpunk game that I've played, like, characters in D&D either break one of two ways, where they just sort of, like, run through a dungeon, and then they've, like, blown up half the dungeon with their feet because they've just gotten every trap sprung.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Or...
Like our mission as my cleric.
Yes. Or every 5 feet, they're like, I check for traps, because they're so nervous.
They're so paranoid about it.
And so I think that for any GM who's running a sort of cyberpunky, futuristic sort of thing, it's a fine line between having characters be like, is that a camera? And you're like, no, it's a vase. And you're like, but there could be a camera in it, right?
How would we know?
Yeah. Or just like forgetting that normal technology exists, right? It's an adjustment, for sure.
Just the idea that you can interact with your enemy's weapons on the Omni end.
Yeah,
so that overlay.
Yes, yep.
Well, or try to.
Or try to,
You can attempt.
And that's even from a scouting standpoint, right? Like, you just see things that are connected to the overlay.
Yep.
Which also leads to how awesome some of the scion trees are, but, for scouting.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Shadow Mind is so good.
Yes.
Also, what I think will be largely untouched for a while, because it's very passive and people don't quite understand stealth in my game, but once they understand stealth, they're going to start paying attention to that one.
Yeah.
Oh, and Shadow Mind mixed with Auric Manifestate. Wait, what is that the Terrormancy?
That's the Terrormancy.
Terrormancy,
which is really
pretty
cool.
fun.
The name alone. That sounds really cool.
It also introduced a whole new tag that only exists to that ability, known as Psychic Burn.
Yes.
You literally start. How did I describe it? You combust. The individual's psyche is literally burning, like combusting. Yeah, they're like. Mind is being shredded.
Yeah, it's spooky.
Yeah,
it's spooky. But very cool,
very cool.
and it's. I'm excited to see where it goes.
I can't wait, honestly. I'm fly back that day or the day before. Is that day or the day before? Either way, I'll be home.
Okay.
And I just don't want to wait. I would like to do it now. I would like to do it every week.
That I will say that is the most difficult part of breaking up.
I know.
The two things. I'm like, okay, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Like it's just so excited for it,
But that's the important piece.
Yeah, no, it is.
It does hook people. They're hungry to get back at it. Like, until we were later in my D&D campaign, most people were not like, I just want to keep going.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty hard at times to, like, reel back in people, and people were like, I wasn't feeling great, blah, 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 blah. Once things got really heated up, people were like, itching, like, oh,
what's next?
I just want to play or whatever. I feel like this game just naturally creates that from mission one.
Yes.
You're already like, okay, well, we just planned. Oh, but now we need to wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes. It is
and
a very...
think about Cleveland and how we didn't research him.
Hey, we did now.
You did now. But that's only because I gave you a 1.5 session.
Oh, yes, that's true. It's because
That would have been rough. That would have been
There's a lot we were...
I know. I was like, I know you guys did a lot of research, but he also ignored some pretty important components that I brought up with Dash, just kind of like breezed over them, and I'm like... You really haven't done too much, like you.
Cleveland does not sound like a threatening name. You really need to get better. Oh, who's that? Herbert? What's his thing? Oh, he's a terrorist. Excuse me?
He's just a pure psychopath. Serial killer.
Yeah. Like, that's Cleveland. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not worried about him. Crimson Gin. Now that's a name that gets attention.
Yeah.
Cleveland.
Well, it was funny too when I was thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, can we get another session in? I had to go because, so I'm very meticulous about separating my development brain and work from my character and my play stuff, because I don't want that to interfere and give me more information than I would normally have. So I don't think about those things. But once the light bulb went on and I asked him if we could do the 1.5, I went back and looked, and I have all the images from all the characters.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, I did forget. But I know what's all there now because I researched it, but shit. Because I made all the tokens before we started the mission, so technically I had all that information prior. But I compartmentalized.
That's all right. That's good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Because your character didn't have access to those images.
Yep.
Well, now you have access to the beautiful image of Cleveland, so you're welcome.
Yes.
We can replay that one in your mind a lot.
Yeah, but that was good. And the fact that he showed up, that Brandon showed up for that, and it was surprisingly, because we were about to walk away.
Yeah.
Because we.
Either that or set off the sprinkler system.
Yeah. We were talking about distracting the group to get everybody out. I'm like, let's not fail this mission before.
Brandon was like, well, you guys do that. Isn't that just kind of blowing up the entire security system?
Yep.
Like,
you can walk away.
Yeah. And that is, and I think that is something that this game really is going to be a little bit of a learning curve for people. Is like we saw it with anything that involves net diving. Like, you just leave.
Yep.
Get out of it.
Yeah, and things like Trace are not the end of the world.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
The fact that just like treating it like this is a static location, it's going to be there when you leave.
Yep.
Like you can.
Yes.
You don't have to execute right here and then.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, just quite frankly, no other TTRPG is set up so much like this. I mean, I shouldn't say no. I'm sure there are TTRPGs out there. I haven't played the full gambit of them.
Those the GM at the store was rattling off all these different games I've never heard of.
Yeah. There's lots of small TTRPGs.
Yeah.
Is there a preferred flavor of pizza?
No.
Sausage, pepperoni.
I think none of us are picking.
Yeah. Pizza is pizza.
Pizza's pizza.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
But there's a saying, it's a pizza, that's used by Latin students. So Latin doesn't have many fun mnemonics. In fact, they have none, because even that one isn't very fun. But it's how you conjugate different verbs into the subjunctive, depending on its different conjugations. So you remember, it's a pizza, so E turns to I and all that kind of fun stuff. No, it's not interesting. It's okay. But anytime you hear a little season, I'm like, did somebody who knew Latin make that? Probably was that a thing?
Well, that's something I appreciate about you and Brandon and how you guys interact. The verbiage.
We are fun. He is a blast.
He's a good fit. Honestly, like
he was just a killer.
You and Brandon and Connor all in the same game, like.
Talk about party drivers.
Well, that's kind of the thing. I'm
getting close to the ideal team here, guys. I get a couple more people who are like just on like that. I'm gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's it. Well, and like, not to get super meta about it, but like that makes streaming things way more enjoyable when you've got like a lively bunch of people who are playing,
talking and
characters that are memorable and stuff like that.
And as this campaign grows too, and hopefully the community grows, maybe we'll probably try and get everybody like on camera. On Twitch, and we'll stream everybody's input.
So we can see everybody's facial animations.
That'll be great.
It'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be really
You'll
good.
see Paul when he's just like, when Josh doesn't pick up on cues that he's planted so cleverly. Well, and the thing is like, I remember talking to Josh too, because he did the exact same thing in the fantasy one. He was just dropping hints for the whole team, to be honest. Everybody was just and it was just like, but in that one I actually held strong. I didn't bring it up, and I just let them miss it. But eventually somebody's like, wait a second, wasn't that something? And then they started like thinking back, and they started seeing all of them stack up, and it was pretty epic.
And it grows into all the other little bits and bobs. And again, it's based on the GM, right? It's how crazy a web they want to weave.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
And not everyone's gonna be like that. You get the folks that love the predefined. They're just here to have
100%.
fun.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're gonna obviously provide as much of that as we can too for those folks that don't want to have to craft the whole thing on their own.
Right. The predefined missions.
And that's going to come with like
a lot of my missions will be fodder for that you guys are running through.
That'll be good.
It's already technically there. So
go fight Crimson. Go. Hopefully not fight Crimson.
Yeah,
preferably not.
Please not.
Yeah.
Please not.
Oh, she's so mean.
I don't doubt it.
She's going to be a problem.
Once we get through the mission, if it ends up that she's out for the whole thing, and I'll tell you all about her because she's she's actually not that. I think she's maybe like 5,000 crypt ahead of you guys.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, she's relatively in your league, but I had some fun making her.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
But like it also, I think one of the interesting things about this system too is it unexpected things can happen, like taking out Mr. Edward Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, seriously.
Like that was insane. I was like, this is gonna be a tough fight, and he's dead in one round.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It was the perfect culmination of major debuffs from poison and then simultaneous face detonation.
Yeah, that'll do it.
And I was thinking about that making my net dive. I'm like, okay, what can I do? What can I bring to the table to help prop everybody up? And then when we go back in the 0.5 session and research Cleveland, I'm like, this is just a mutated boy in a ton of armor. I have no agency here. Good luck, guys.
There are others. Yeah.
And then the other side of it is I'm thinking to myself, okay, how can I get Kel in stealthily through the back door to not to take a Shadowrun term, but geek the mage, if you will.
Yeah.
The net divers on scene can.
Well, I mean, you have to find out where.
Yep.
And you may be dealing with more than one net diver.
I'm fully aware. I'm at least dealing with two.
Because there's also a ganger net diver as well. So you have
I've got a ganger
depending.
and the main chick. Her.
I mean, arguably, probably what Red Crimson is providing is going. I mean, sorry, Red Saffron is providing is going to be a heck of a lot harder of a net diver than a ganger net diver.
That's why I would like my stealth character to find the net diver from Red Saffron and kill it.
That's fair.
In the disembodied state. So at least that's ideal. But now he's just gonna smile here and wait. And not let us know.
I'm very curious. Like I was actually like, you guys did a great job in the prep, and I mean I still think there's a chance that you guys just get out with no combat whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
And it's just smooth.
Yep.
Whatever. But I also don't want to give too much of a precedent to the idea that you can just have a character with no wisdom or ability to actually convince people of stuff and think that you can do it all on the merits of you knowing what you're talking about in real life.
Yep.
That's the thing, player knowledge isn't necessarily character knowledge.
Right.
Yep.
Or skill, for that matter.
Yeah.
And I mean, I am factoring in. You have high medicine. You can talk about this stuff well.
Yep.
But that's
like doctor. Yeah.
Like I don't know medicine stuff super great, but I can also sort of suss out and I'm going to be watching to suss out if I'm going to an illegal doctor.
That's it, yeah.
And now the doctor who I was going to see is now gone and replaced with an 8-foot guy who's saying he's a doctor, and he's going to try and convince me with technical terms.
Yeah.
I'm still going to come into the situation being highly suspicious, right? Just situationally, you're my doctor, and where'd the other guy go?
Last doctor died. They needed a bigger doctor, so this one's less likely to get taken out, man. Look at me. Yeah, I'm a lot harder to kill. I can't say the same for old weenie doctor over there. He's tiny.
I also have a question. It's is Zircon planning on... I mean, he's going in as a doctor. Is he not planning on wearing his armor or taking his weapon?
Yeah,
if he takes any of those things...
that was kind of my...
That's going to be, so he's going to go in extremely vulnerable then.
Well, and that's the other question is that something he puts off-site? Is that something in an accessible room? Does he have access to it? How is that going to play out? And how do you prove your value in this state? Do you like, hey, I've been working in the lab upstairs for the last week because I work for these guys. Maybe that builds another level of trust. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think it just depends on how Brendan decides to do
A
it.
week?
Oh.
Hey, you are operating on me.
Yeah. Wow. They give you the best.
Me, I was working upstairs, and now here I am. Bing, bang, boom. Doctor for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
We'll see how he
It'll
does
be interesting.
That,
It'll be interesting, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's going to be in the most precarious position, too.
He is. I'm
Oh,
nervous
yeah.
about him.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about him.
And on that thought, too, is since Otto's kind of bowing out, are we just going to kind of automate his character?
I'll automate him for this, for the completion, and then either Desh will get, I don't know. I'll find some way to move Desh along. Probably he just bows out for a time. He has needs to go check on his family.
Oh, they're all dead. Hold on.
No, they're in the village. They're like Luddites.
Okay.
Or something, or like they're friends with Luddites. I forget what his story is.
Yeah,
They're like dwarven Luddite friends.
they're he's figuring out the real world for him.
Well, I think that's one of the saving graces for Otto and how he kind of plays his characters and shit. Because he's focused on Desh forever in every campaign.
Yes.
He just it's almost intuitive for him.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
No, it really is.
Great.
I mean, he really only does play one character, and he really. That's it. I mean, like, I know what to expect from Desh. She's never gonna be like, oh, here's a book, I'm casting magic. Like, that's not
not a thing.
and I love that, you know.
Dwarven Wolverine.
That's it.
Basically,
That's exactly it.
Hyperactive.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something when we were talking after our the first session, we were just kind of chewing the fat later than everybody, and he was actually able to make Desh this time, which I guess hasn't. I mean, he's done it, but like this was everything he ever wanted.
Yes. Yep.
From what he was saying, so because he made him in your Shadowrun.
Yes,
right?
he did. Yes, he did.
Probably not nearly as terrifying.
No. Desh did, and he has stuck true to it so far. He has gone down in every single fight through our Shadowrun campaign through here.
Yeah.
He
didn't go down.
He didn't go down. That's right. He didn't.
He
He
lost a leg.
collapsed.
He did go unconscious from the drugs.
Counts.
Which
To
counts.
me.
Yeah. It also provided a great social interaction in getting that guy to stop trying to hug me.
Yes.
So,
There you go. Yeah.
and him waking up and stumbling down.
It was great though seeing him go after the literal combat foil that I had put in the very first mission, the mech.
Yes.
And being like, yes, you guys, he felt very powerful that game. He was dashing through a room full of guns and everything and still pulling it off.
Oh my god.
Right, he was
he
being crazy.
Yeah, but
then like,
he's got a character focused on that.
you can bite off more than you you are not invincible in this game, and that was what one of my worries was, like, are you too strong to the encounter? But I think that I'm just really excited. I think, like, because the success is all based on the plan and the pre-work, I don't feel pressure to have to be like, oh, I need to make this more difficult or complicated for them. I'm just going to let their natural actions play out to the reactions that I think would actually happen.
And that is, I think, something too that a lot of GMs fall into is, oh, well, they kind of already figured out my thing, so I got to come up with a new thing. I was like, what?
Yeah,
They worked hard to like figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, like that was a
bask in the reward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a mission that you did work for ahead of time. Not every mission should feel like you're about to die.
Right.
That's
Did we get our long rest before we started?
Yeah.
And there's this, like, in my mind, there's a simple solution to this. Like, okay, so say, like, this mission.
Yeah.
So you guys pull it off. No damage taken.
Yep.
You guys just whip it out. You achieve all the objectives. You all get, like, roughly getting up towards 10K of rewards. And you guys are like, yeah. But, like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, that was a big delivery. Like, great. I think they're ready for like a challenge now.
Yeah,
they just got a big windfall of money.
Yep.
Let's give them a real challenging mission.
Yep.
To put that new money to test, and even like we can start to heat things up. They're starting to get this now. They're starting to understand the systems at play.
Yeah.
I can start turning up the volume.
Well, and I think it's you know, in any higher level game, balance is tough because you don't balance a game typically around level 20, right? You know, like, what does a level 15 game look like? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because I've played so few of them.
Yeah.
Is it balanced?
I've hardly gotten to... Did we get to 10? We were almost 10.
I think we just walked into 10 after a year.
Yeah.
And we felt powerful, too.
Yeah. It's tough, because, like, how do you balance stuff like that?
And what is it, Wizards, once you pass 14, some of the stuff that they can do...
I mean, it just...
Well, that's sort of the thing, yeah. You get
wacky.
You get pretty powerful.
It's not a good smooth curve. It's
well, and that's again where I think that where systems like D&D and to bring it back to what we started talking about, like even no hit systems, I think have a difficult time balancing. You've worked a character up to be this powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So then what's a DM's response if my wizard's going at it? Well, here's a monster with resistance or you know, they're immune to that sort of
bigger
damage.
health pool.
That sucks. That feels crappy.
Right.
I've been working all game. I've spent a year of my time to get this level. And now you're telling me, oh, by the way, that won't work for this guy.
No.
Why? It's in the game because it's supposed to work. Like, and it isn't necessarily the GM's fault. Those are the systems that they have to make an encounter more difficult.
Well, then you get those class systems that break stuff. Druid of the Circle of Stars or whatever it is, where you're doing temp HP every turn.
Yep.
It breaks full encounters.
Yeah.
It does. Or it makes, again here, it makes game mechanics so frustrating to go through. If you play Circle of the, whatever, the summoning shepherd.
The shepherd. Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, just a freaking shepherd just breaks the whole game. It's just like,
I'm going to play 10 wolves.
Yes.
Good luck.
We'll be here for 8 hours.
And now we're on to round 2 of combat.
Yeah. My wolves are together now. They all have advantage, and it's
or if you've got an owl familiar, everything does anyway.
My favorite was like 12 boars, and they're just like charging in because they get extra goring at that. Just like, anyways.
Which would be very thematic. Like that would be cool to just see a
squealing
bunch
boars.
of boars. Kind of out of nowhere. Like what a terrifying thing.
You hear a stampede trample sound, but it's about 2 octaves too light.
But I think, having more difficult encounters is a good thing as you guys develop this to figure out what does game balance look like, the better we get.
But see, and that's, like, for example, man, like I was doing the blog on the Chem Chef.
Yeah.
Or on the
Sprawl
Doc, and specifically the Chem Chef, and like, eventually you can, like, if you focus classic Chem Chef, you can juice boxes, which means you can actually get to a pure strain drug with no debilitations and all positives, which is great, right?
Which is super cool.
And could be extremely powerful.
Yep.
But again, I'm not... What I would likely do in turning up the volume is just a more complicated mission.
Yeah.
With more predominant and dangerous foils. Like, for me, it's all about what is the foil.
Yep. Well, that's the thing. I think, it allows characters to either say, okay, I'm just going to run Fates first and this is going to be really difficult, or I'm going to try to plan ahead, and then the encounter's super fun for me. Then I'm playing to my strengths, right?
Yeah,
I'm
you're feeling good.
Chop people up, and it's because I put in the work in session 1 to...
get to where I need to be to chop people up.
Yes. Yep.
And the net diver is opening up all the doors for me because he's doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And that's the point. Like I think as a GM you're gonna want to embrace your team executes well. They should be able to waltz through many of these missions very effectively. And that's still to say, like, they're never, like what Brandon was saying after the last mission, you're never gonna get all of the details. Get every piece figured out perfectly.
Yep.
Like, maybe you could start to get there if somebody has chosen to play the broker tree, where they're really good at using contacts. You could get, like, generally go into most missions feeling well prepared, but then you also have a character who is largely operating there and is going to be more of just like a generalist here to support somewhere and not very as influential. But like, but the thing is, you're always going to miss an angle, and eventually, just like any professional out there, you're going to miss a crucial angle and something's going to go sideways. And then the mission morphs into something else entirely, and now it's figuring out, like, you know, you're in the hallway and the laser grid system goes off, and now both legs of your street samurai are cut off, and now it's a rescue mission to get your samurai out of there. And the alarms are going, and so it's like it turns into a whole nother thing, and that's fun also. But that's fun because I, as the GM, I'm not responsible for that. You guys didn't figure out that there's this high-tech security system with laser beams in the hallway to your target. And you overlooked it, or you didn't research it well enough, or whatever, and so it's like you guys can own that. Like, it was just like when you guys walked into the first one, and the security guards come up your rear, and you're just positioned in all the wrong places. Sorry,
No, I love that. Someone didn't close the bathroom door. How rude.
A very easy, like, had you guys had their research, you would have known that, oh, the security facility is right downstairs by the bathrooms.
Well, and not only that, but, you know, the people to blame for us walking in was us. That's
it's not like the GM threw you into it to be like,
nothing mean. You're like, okay, this is actually, unfortunately,
we fucked around and found out.
You've done everything wrong. This won't be a great mission, but
shit, my planned escape even failed because I didn't put enough acid on the wall and we couldn't blow through it.
That was worrying, right?
I'm gonna think about that a little harder.
Oh yeah, and then your acid pack got taken out, so you couldn't put more on.
Yeah, because the net diver just turned my shit off.
But we got out, right? I think that it's also
and achieved two secondary.
There's
not
in a weird way.
I
think failure in a game like this can also be really gratifying. To be like, we didn't do it right. We got out, right? Well, we tried to make the best of what we could, and
that's also indicative of the GM and what the GM decides to do, because depending on, you know, how you handle the consequences versus someone else who's a little more either punishing or forgiving. You won't grow as much from it. I don't think it's finding that happy balance between punishment and reward.
And that's why, like, I have 4 chapters dedicated to, like, GMing and GM philosophy, and it really focuses less on, like, here's how to build the map and the encounter, and much more on philosophy of GMing.
Maybe that's where you guys, as you start rolling this stuff out, like, I know we were talking earlier about, like, an accreditation program. Maybe you guys have accredited GMs
for House of Eidolons.
To start people off, to seed groups.
Right.
You know, even if it's something that's online or whatever it is, you've got, you know, the control and the ability to say, here's somebody who's, you know, going to give you the best chance of leaving this with a good encounter.
Good experience. That's why we're building that alpha pack. So, and actually, it's probably going to be done here by the end of the week because I retaught myself InDesign again. But this alpha set, we put together, like, custom characters, custom items.
Sort of.
Yep.
This Auric Manifestation Science.
It's so fun.
So fun.
It is.
Just Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
You're just like,
seriously, it is so gratifying.
And that's the point, right?
That is the point.
Yes.
You want to play your character. It's not like I'm playing this character to eventually get to where I want to be.
I'm not playing this character to fill a role. I'm playing this character to do what I would like, to do something that I cannot do in real life that I think would be interesting to try out, right? Like, that is why anyone plays the character that they play, or it's why anyone ought to play the character.
And outside of, like, those people who want to play the survival game, you start out as shipwrecked McGoo on the island with nothing but your whitey-tighties and a pitchfork or whatever, and you gotta, like, you know, forge everything. Like, there are those people, and for them,
100%.
But like most people nowadays, they want to jump on just like you jump on Cyberpunk, and immediately you're able to take out a whole area of gangers.
Yep.
Right out the gate with a pistol and a gun.
And it's I don't want to, but it's a respect for someone's time too.
Yeah.
You know, and, like I think that one of the things that can be very daunting for people to get into any sort of these TTRPGs is the time that you need to devote to it, and you devote this time and you still feel like crap. Right?
Yes. I got fireball once.
Yeah. Wow.
And then I ran around hoping not to die from the goblins.
Yeah, half the goblins made their save anyway, so they're fine. And here I am.
And I accidentally cooked one of my teammates.
Yeah.
Because I'm new to
failed the save.
Let's not factor in that I bought a book to a crappy system that I don't ever want to read again.
Yeah.
Cough Shadowrun.
Yeah. But it's
not to throw shade, sorry guys. But
it taught me a lot of,
we learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
And it's, Shadowrun's a very novel universe, you know, like that. It's the most difficult thing about Shadowrun, honestly, is just learning the rules.
Yeah.
Like that is,
it feels fragmented.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was running that campaign took way longer than it needed to because we were constantly looking up rules that, for all of its drawbacks.
Has some great ideas.
It does, yes.
The lore was great to learn.
Well, and not just like the lore, but I wouldn't, like, it was my introduction to the idea of contacts. Now, my mind took contacts way further, but like, just them talking and being like, you have these contacts, and these contacts do play a role.
I think it does an interesting job synthesizing, like, fantasy concepts with a cyberpunk setting. That is something that I miss when I play other cyberpunk RPGs, because I love that kind of magic aspect.
Yeah.
And, so having a system that scratches that itch is, I think, smart, and Shadowrun does that very, very well.
Yeah.
But, the rules can be prohibitive.
And that's where I don't think, like, of all the cyberpunk out there, I think Shadowrun is going to simply because you're playing in that universe and nobody's going to really compete. I'm super biased, but I think our system that we're coming up with is absolutely better, but I understand there's not going to be a game that's going to let you play as a distinct racial elf in a cyberpunk world slinging magic spells. Like, my system doesn't do that. Yeah, do we have psychers?
Yes.
Does that feel a little bit like magic?
Yes.
Certainly. But I wasn't going to implement,
elves
and dwarves. Like, can you mutate yourself to be elven? Absolutely.
Let's do it.
If that's what your power fantasy is, but I'm not going to be like, this is your race, the elf, and this is your dwarfs, and these are their distinct cultures, and there's dragons ruling the world,
Yep.
Like, that's their thing, and that's great.
It's cool.
Heck, that TV show, the movie Bright, was very inspired by it.
That's right.
It was very fun.
It makes me sad that didn't do better, but it was such a fun run.
It was a fun.
And it felt like we were.
But we probably enjoyed it more because we knew Shadowrun, and we're like,
oh yeah.
We could connect those dots. So.
But it is a tricky system to learn, and I think that this.
Talk about moving the wrong way in the meatbag system.
Right, they just leaned into it.
Well, no, they didn't just lean into it. They built this block chart health stun system that was so complicated.
Yeah.
It is frustrating to track. I think that anything you can't track on, a piece of paper or an app that isn't just, I'm having to reprint my character sheet constantly because I filled out the blocks and now... And that's it, right?
Well, that's something we're learning with all you guys too in this initial couple runs is the changes we need to make to the character sheet just based on what people interact in.
Character sheet's so important.
Yes.
It's what you spend all your time looking at.
That's the thing. For a character, it's really the only bit of stuff that you ever interact with constantly. The GM has books and charts and maps, but the player has character sheet, and that's really the only way you kind of commune with the game.
And that's my only thing is, like, I think I personally like body hit system.
Yeah.
Body part components. But, like, doing cybernetics well and getting that communicated onto a sheet is really tough to the level of detail that I would like.
No, and that is, it's tough for me to understand, and I've read the rules a bunch, and I know that I've got soft points that are missing in my stomach now because I've got a lower body thing, but like, it's more complicated.
And with those segments too, that hopefully as I continue to iterate on the chart and then eventually we get apps up and running, we can be more intentional with our like color coding, symbolism, clarifying what these all mean. Because even with Brandon, who was as experienced as both of you, was having an issue realizing that if you just check the soft point, well, that's 2 soft points.
Yeah.
If you just check the hard point, that's 2.
No, that definitely needs to figure that out. Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah, and if you check both, that just means you get one of each. Like, it's not very clear. It makes sense once it's spoken to you.
Yep.
But prior to that, reading it is a different story.
Right.
So things like that will have to change. What things you need to track, like as a net diver, right? Trace is an active stat that I'm always interacting with. Things like even just quick reference inventory space. For like your weapons, like it's not just copying pasting these huge chunks of text, but maybe a quick line that shows you your damage, your accuracy, all this other fun stuff we do. So, we'll just keep iterating and updating. That's one of the many things on the lists.
It is. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's
right. Like nobody comes out with their. I mean, D&D didn't even have a character sheet. It was a piece of paper.
I mean, that's the thing. There's a reason that there are additions too. I mean, like things update. I don't think it'll take you 18 more months.
Not to throw shade.
No. But I think
I'm sure they're gonna have a great system.
Yes, but if your concern is your character sheet, I think you guys are in a good spot.
Those are pretty good. And to kind of answer like the difficulty question, if I didn't though, but just jumping back to it, to me I think it's just right now you guys are interacting like this mission. Likely you're going to carry out the whole mission on one floor. Right, the second floor is there, and there was like a little piece of information, like a secondary objective up there, but it wasn't like a...
For me, it's mostly an access point for Kel to get to behind everybody while you guys are coming in from a different direction.
So now, imagine, if you will, Mission Impossible level stuff where you're breaking into like a world bank. Right, and you have to like break into this vault. I mean, like, even with all your upgrades and all of the good gear you have, I mean, this is a complicated mission where you have to like, you're planning. You might even have to do missions leading up to that mission. Like, so the missions become this very, very interesting situation. Not that, I mean, again, you could still theoretically pull it off all kind of smooth, or like, or maybe better, where do you control, how well can you control where the things go wrong? I think that's even a mindset that people have to start adopting is like, okay, what are the things that we have learned or know are like, we really don't want to go wrong. Like, we really don't want Talos Judicial. So let's like really make sure that we're using keeping our trace value to that right level, because we know how this mission is going to take way longer than just 10 minutes. And Talos Judicial will be able to get there on scene before we're able to get out or whatever. So it's just like, how do we control the variables that we really don't want to happen and then deal with the rest that do?
And with that 2-stage system that we're kind of implementing, what I'm trying to hopefully convey as we record these videos now, these conversations, we've contained the idea of your like fluid storyline, but it's not limiting you. I don't want people to feel like you're bound to this system. Sure, if you want to run a full mission in one night, go ham.
Oh, absolutely.
But also don't think that these missions don't lead into the overarching narrative either. Right? Just because you're in your base of operations or your home base, your cerebral village still exists. And that's still part of the storytelling tools. So
and I always have my big P, my big plot that's out there that I'm naturally moving things towards. And of course your decision making does have dynamic changes to that. But just like in fantasy, things are naturally moving you towards something that is larger than just running missions for your house. So make no mistakes, we'll get there. But for now it's just getting everybody used to the system, familiar and ready and comfortable.
I just want to play all of the characters all of the time. Like I want to explore all the systems and break them down. And
I want to just see more. I want to see. I don't want to see them directed at us. But I want to see Talos Judicial actually mix it up. You know, like I've heard they're bad.
How bad are they?
yeah.
So that's a conversation I had with Paul a few days ago when when I was designing characters in Net Divers, I was trying to think, okay, well, how can I take the mesmerizer tree, if you will, where you're doing a lot of illusions and tricking and changing signals and stuff. How can I use that to bring Talos Judicial or any security systems to fight for us, to do the work for us?
Onto your enemy?
Yes.
I was trying to figure out a way to do that. Now, it's not really tenable, but
I mean, I think it's doable, and I think in the right situation and right mission, it could be really smart.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, again, this is where, like, I want people to level up their TTRPG experience.
Yes.
Like, it can be more than dungeon crawling, looting,
100%.
and continuing on. It can be like,
to be successful, it has to be. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's such a big thing in TTRPG stuff, is that it's you get very stuck in what's like comfortable, and I think that, you know, this system really will push people out of their comfort zone. Especially a GM running this is going to be weirded out for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
I think yes, and I think there will be a lot of GMs. Like, they're already doing this with systems that don't support it, and making up tons and tons of rules. And I think
1,000,000%.
I think once people start understanding this, I think a lot of GMs will be excited about this.
I don't think it'll take a long time. You know, if you've got a system that has stuff built in for running what you already do.
Yeah.
And having conversations with not just veterans like you, but newer players like Kel and to some extent Missy and John, even though they're pretty good.
Even Jin had never played a TTRPG before, and he felt it was easy enough to.
These seem to be the two speed bumps that I think we're going to have the biggest challenges. One, introducing new players and not scaring them with the volume of options you have.
Yeah, of course.
Just like teaching any of my students, 3D Studio Max or Maya or these 3D programs, you feel like you're in a dinghy in the middle of an ocean, you don't know which way to go. We don't want people to feel stranded like that. That's the first challenge. The second challenge is just getting people to see us. Like, those are the two things.
Getting people to see us. That's the first challenge.
Honestly, that is, that is
absolutely
true.
Yeah.
I think then, once we have people who see us and they're like, this seems too complicated, then we can start
we'll have it available.
I think we've already started to address it, right? I've got 24 pre-built characters that anybody can grab at varying difficulty levels.
And I mean, I think that's where having an app will come in handy too, you know?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, you're selecting this. You sure you want to do that? Because you don't have a system that's going to work well with it. Well, no, you still want to? Okay, great. Good luck, right? Yeah.
Well, the initial run with the character sheet, too, is the next iteration. I'm going to have tooltips for absolutely every box there. Just to explain, like, even like intuition or your resistance. Like, I'm going to have a tooltips so you can see what that does without having to go refer back to the rules. So that's the first step. And then, of course, the app will isolate and contain most of this stuff in a better
And that's
way,
another thing too, is like, and I think like TTRPGs like Wizards is got there with like their big app and stuff like that. But like for so long it's like I mean, I know that app design costs some, but for some of these companies, you would have thought that they would have like Shadowrun by now. I would have thought especially how complicated their characters are to create, that they would have some sort of app made.
Summer. It's the only thing.
Only one.
That's
all you got. And even that one, you got to plug in like it's not an easy system to use.
No, well, and it's for me, it's been such an interesting thing. Like, I remember the first edition of the Warhammer 40k rules that were put into ebook, and all of a sudden I could like stuff was linked in a glossary. Oh my god, are you kidding me? Like, I can actually look at these rules and like. That just simplified it because it was such a pain to stop. I think that one of the things that can get really difficult for GMs and players to manage is that interruption time.
Yep.
Where it's I don't know how this
Referencing,
works, and you're trying to flip through stuff, and then other conversations start, and it can kind of be hard to get people back. I think if you've got stuff simple and at your fingertips, it says, "Oh, this is how this works. Let's keep going."
And we kind of learned that the hard way. And I want to give Path of Exile a little bit of credit here because when him and me sat down, and what was the other one that used tags really well?
Warhammer.
And was it Warhammer? Yeah.
Warhammer 40K started using tags a lot more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just having a good search reference engine for it. That's why we put the tags on a lot of this stuff, and that'll be part of our item cards too. Because we would really like, and what we're going to do is have, you've got your base item card. Well, then you got another card that's your next upgrade that you just set right next to it.
Yeah.
Perfect reference.
Yeah, we're going to build cards for all items, mutations, cybernetics.
I think it's smart to do that. I think it's smart to have that in there.
And even,
Never mind. Keep going.
Yeah, so we'll just do these card systems, really easy way to track all that stuff. Programs, the 9. So, yeah.
I should probably go get Ivy. Unfortunately.
No worries.
Yeah, she's...
Julia's sick.
Oh, no!
It wasn't this morning, but she's got coughs and aches and that sort of stuff.
Ick.
She was out last night at a party or whatever. It hasn't registered for COVID, which is good, but...
Good.
Well,
Still rough. Yeah, ick. Ugh.
Yeah.
Icky. Well...
So on the conversation of item cards, how much does this pack generally cost?
Those ones like $15-20?
Yeah, I think it's... So, now they've got unit cards, because I still play Warhammer. Because they have, now they've got, big unit cards, and I think those are, 35, and then they got, the actual data card thing that's for missions and stuff. Yeah, it's up there. It's not a cheap accessory.
So what I was railing on this earlier was have you seen our item cards?
No.
For the game? I'll show you some. But I opened that up because I'm thinking, this will be good inspiration for our cards going forward.
Oh
my
yeah.
Gosh, they're so horrible.
No. And the unit cards, I will give GW credit. I don't own them because I own the Codex, but you can get unit cards for each unit. They've got the rules listed right there. They've got the to hit, to wound, the options, and all that stuff, the keywords and everything, which is cool. But it took them long to get there.
Oh yeah.
And what's hilarious is those cards don't come with the package.
Oh no, that's impossible.
Yeah. You can't stick them in the giant box that they put the units into. They wouldn't possibly fit in with the sprue.
No. Those because if you're gonna buy the book, cards can't come with it. You can't. No.
Right.
You can't purchase something digitally on the app. That would be impossible as well.
Correct.
But I just want to, because let's say in theory that I run Necrons and then a new book comes out, but it's the holidays and so my pre-order doesn't get here in time, but I've got a game I want to play, but then I can't use the app because the rules are all locked because they don't have the code for it yet, and so instead I have to put stuff off until my book arrives because I can't buy anything digitally on the app, which is super good.
DW.
And if you buy the physical copy of anything with say stuff like Wizards, you don't get the digital version
Doesn't
of it
count.
either. No, it doesn't count.
Correct.
No, that doesn't
And they're the same
work.
price.
Either or.
Yes. Well, because instead of the cost of physically printing, it's the cost of internet.
Electricity.
Yeah, it's, obviously.
So it's stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
So this was some of our original designs, and we have all the effects on the back of the card
I
and
like
all the
that.
front-facing
I
ones.
like that a lot.
And as we go through some of these, we've got stuff like the handguns. You've got your cost, all its different effects going on there. All the different drugs.
See,
cybernetics,
that's very cool.
Yeah, so we want to have, and these are just temp ones too for
Yeah.
A lot of our drugs ended up being really fun. Things like Cloud9, and we get some great imagery for it, and it goes through all the effects.
Very nice.
So. Now those will get updated visually because it was our first run, but even for a first run, it gives me more information than that crap.
Yes. No, 100%. Right? I mean, that's just it. It's.
And I'll
so often
for posterity's sake on the video. I know I'm just holding a laptop to a screen, but this is what we're talking about, our item cards.
It's so often I think that it's the minimum effort for so long.
Right.
Which is just nuts to me.
And the part that really blows my mind, and I know it's a touchy subject, especially in this space, but folks, AI exists right now. AI is a powerful thing. Yeah. AI is the crux, is probably the reason we were able to launch this the way we did. Mm-hmm. And folks, I don't know if it's just not being leveraged, or if I'm waiting to see more of it, or if it's just being abused and the big boys aren't touching it. I don't know.
No, they're definitely touching it.
Oh, yeah.
I think I think they're just very quiet about it, and they have enough artists on staff to say otherwise.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I actually think the tides, I think, are starting to turn a little bit on. Maybe it's just the stuff that I'm reading, but generally when I've talked with people, most people that I've been talking with or have mentioned AI or whatever have not been, like, abhorred that we're using AI. Yeah. I think everybody recognizes that there was a big abuse with AI early on.
Yeah. I think it's tough. Like a big company using it instead of hiring actual artists is hugely problematic, right?
Right.
On the other hand, I think that a small company is like, I want to get some really quality artwork and want to get stuff that looks
to be able to compete with the big company.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's a proven statistic too. A visually pleasing game will sell and be more seen.
Well, yeah,
by far.
and it's a tool, and it's one that I think for smaller operations, it's something that allows them to punch above their weight.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think for bigger organizations, I think that it's. I understand people's concerns around it too.
Sure.
I don't want an artist who's done this for years and who's put their heart and soul into it and really is producing top quality work to be laid off because they can generate an image that also looks pleasing for considerably less money
and time.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that there's an ethical transition point where
that's what we talk about in our video. Is like, really, this is what's letting us get what we feel, get the imagery that will help you really embrace and fall into the world. But one of the first things we want to do, like, if we can get going, we can get up and be successful, is to look in and bringing art in-house or contracted out because, even as great as AI is, like, this is just something I was talking with Josh, is like, okay, so we have the Thronebreaker 3 images, right?
Yeah, yep.
But I know I can get AI with some work and different models. I can get that character portrayed in different ways, but not like I could do if I hire. Like, I can having somebody hired. We can have like characters and renditions of those characters and portrayals of those characters done in all kinds of different ways and scenery and stuff like that. And it just it's authentic and and imaginative and
And I think that there's something interesting about different people's interpretations on the same character.
Yeah.
Like how does Odin look? Kind of depends on the artist, right? Like I think that's kind of neat.
That's kind of fun. It's like Magic the Gathering style.
They do it the right way, right?
Yes.
They have thousands of artists that have influenced the theme and style of what is Magic, because Magic isn't one single kind of art.
No,
right?
No,
it's
it isn't.
A conglomerate of tons of artists. So, and we want to do something similar to that, with the exception of some of our more static, like stars in the sky, right? Our houses icons. This is why we put so much time and effort into those, and editing and drawing. Some of our characters, some of our main class characters too. Those got those treatments. But even in some of those cases, like the Disco Bard, it just nailed it on the first shot, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes
literally we just typed in Cyberpunk Disco Bard and that's what it popped out. We're just like,
okay,
yep,
this works.
This is the universe saying it's okay. So, and we dive in deeply into the kind of ethical conversation on the website, my AI page there. We even share a bunch of videos from some of like my mentors in the past, and these are big wigs in the VFX industry and how it's affecting movies and films and games, and the fact that it's not going away at all.
No. And I mean, it's a tool.
It's a powerful,
different kind of paintbrush.
I can't imagine a mathematician being upset that a calculator existed, right?
And that's like
it's going to speed things up, and it is inevitable. I mean, we all probably heard this refrain when we were in elementary school.
Mom got lettuce up, just what we need.
Well, you won't always have a calculator with you, so you can't use it on a test. But like, I've got it in my phone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't need to know. It's helpful for me to understand the mathematics behind it, but to actually do the calculating, I am not going. I know myself well enough. I'm going to mess it up. I'm not good at math. Sorry.
That's one of the tenets I hold to in my classes when I actually design the courseware that they learn from is, okay, you're not going to end up needing to handcraft these materials on your own. There's software designed to help you do that,
Precisely.
But you don't understand the foundation. When that software breaks or can't do it, you can't solve your problem.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's some you got to know some shit first.
Yes,
so,
and I think that there's something about when it comes to art, especially in a game. I think that it's more personable, right? To see more people be on it, to see a community, right? So I can understand why people are very upset with
well, the way they went about it was so wrong.
Precisely,
right? You just skim the web for everything and anything.
Yes.
And this applies to all the systems. Heck, they even there was a conversation recently where somebody had ChatGPT just infinitely say a single word, and as it goes longer and longer, it starts divulging skimmed information it wasn't supposed to have or reveal because it breaks.
Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's. I get people's concerns, but I think that it is also, just like many other things, it's a tool, and it's a helpful one. It's one that I think allows for smaller players to really be able to make an impact.
So largely stay outraged at Hasbro.
Yeah.
And love us.
Yeah. That's smart. That's good.
Moral of story.
We can say we can end on any note.
Yeah.
Hasbro is horrible.
Yeah. Yep.
Nobody's gonna argue with that except for maybe the Hasbro CEO, and even him, I'm not even sure he is going to argue.
He's not even gonna pay attention to anything. So,
exactly.
Well, thank you all for listening to us kind of just spitball and riff. So I'm Josh, this is Angelo and Connor.
And this will be one continuous.
Yep.
We're not going to cut this up whatsoever.
Unedited, raw footage.
And you'll probably see us spitballing with either other players or other folks, but this will be a pretty static group on whether we do it online or whatnot, just to kind of...
We didn't ask Connor for his permission about this. We're just assuming
we're just
always be available.
Exactly. Whenever.
At a whim.
Whenever. Yeah. It's so easy.